Kyle here from All Media Reviews. I wanted to do a quick 1-2 take that's not related to music at all. I'm a sports fan, and and I've talked about my love of PGA Tour golf, although that whole thing is kind of transitioning, unfortunately. But, and I'm one of those people that pays attention to my teams, especially when they're winning. Go figure, a little bit of a bandwagon. I will not deny that. I will totally confess. When the team's winning in my home state of Minnesota, I'm paying attention a lot more, and I'll talk about them. So the Minnesota Timberwolves I've been a fan of since their inception. Of course, Kevin Garnett, who's like the same age as me and has the same initials actually as me. We were born within like a month of each other. I was a huge fan of, even though they never really, and they had the one run in 2003, 2004. We never could get that, and of course he goes to Boston, wins the championship, goes to the final 3 times in 3 years. But, the Timberwolves, ever since then, ever since Garnett left, has all sort of struggled. And we've never had, like, this primary, like, team where they're one to pay attention to. We've had some good players that not me, the Timberwolves have had. So now they're actually really good this year. They're playing really well. Largely driven by Anthony Edwards, sort of his sort of ascension to being better and better. But it's also driven by their defense. And so I'm trying to pay attention to them more. I don't know how much commentary I'll give about them, but I'm sort of trying to keep my expectations a little lower than I could, because they still do have the best record, but they've lost 2 or 3 of their last 4 games. So they're not going to win 70 games. They're probably not going to win 60 games, but they may have a chance at least to finish in the top couple teams in the Western Conference, maybe win the division, and I'd hope to make a playoff run. Because they have, I think the primary reason is because as much as having Edwards be so good, their defense, their perimeter defense, their depth for their defense. Naz Reid is the unsung hero of this team, as much as the other guys have really helped. Jaden McDaniels, incredible perimeter defender, and he's actually a pretty good offensive player. But Naz Reid is the guy who needs to continue to be mentioned, because, they have Towns and they have Gobert. And Gobert's been fantastic defensively. That trade they made, which they got all the criticism, they traded all those draft picks away, looked like a complete waste of just complete fleecing last year, but now it's looking better. We'll see over time how it looks, but, it's only whatever. They're only like 27 games into the season. If they don't play as well in the second half, this is kind of all a little overhyped or a little bit premature. But at a minimum, I think that if they can stay healthy, having Anthony Edwards and some of these other guys, these other guys that have helped out, Kyle, what's his name? Kyle Anderson, Mike Conley has helped a lot, of course. This sounds like a complete Timberwolves fanboy video, and that's really what it is. I'm an NBA fan. Jimmy High Roller, I watch his videos, although. And I'm actually I'm hoping to do when I get to the 10-year mark on YouTube here, I'll do like a list of a series maybe, or a couple videos, maybe just one video of my favorite YouTube. I'll probably just do a virtual, just on through the browser. A lot of my favorite regular YouTube stops. And as much as I look at his videos and think he kind of has this sort of ego-driven narrative that, he knows more than everyone else, he makes very good videos. I'll totally give him, and there's a reason why he has whatever it is, like 8 million subscribers or something. But I still like to kind of contend my experience watching the NBA as long as I have, and my watching the patterns, and he tends to ignore defense more than he should. I know that's not what the NBA is about, but he tends to kind of have a bias to the last decade, especially, in LeBron James, which I contend, well, LeBron James is great. To me, he's more like an Elgin Baylor. I mean, he's a little better than that, but the conversation of him being the second best player of all time, I can't see it. He's been to the most finals. He's the most dominant player of the last 15 years. I wouldn't argue that, although it's pretty close with Steph Curry. But he still is probably the most dominant player of the last. But as a whole, I don't see him, as much as he's big and athletic, and he'd be harder to guard if he had played in the 80s or 90s. I still don't see it. I see him maybe as a top 10, top 20 for sure, top 15. But I don't put him in the same category as Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan beat him pretty easily in the finals at least once, maybe twice. Tim Duncan did actually as much, and with less to work with at points. I don't know. I just think Tim Duncan actually has sort of become, in this era, the last 20 years, the guy that they should be looking at, so who sort of took the mantle from Jordan. Kobe, yes, but I think at Duncan, he won the most, he was the most consistent, he was the most prolific of all those guys. And as much as I hated playing Tim Duncan with being a Timberwolves fan, because Garnett, you know, Garnett played him well, but they never were able to beat him. They only won the division maybe twice over them. I can't remember, but maybe the Timberwolves only won the division once. They only won the division once. But, you know, so I respected Duncan, and I just think time will show over time that Duncan really, you know, the big fundamental, he was as significant and an accomplished NBA player as we've had the last 20 years. At least for my perception. I guess it depends on what you're looking at. Overall statistics, versatility, I guess LeBron, you know, is a little higher, but so yeah, that's kind of what then, you know, sports, you know, the Minnesota Wild, I mean, being a Minnesota fan, the teams in the Minnesota Wild are playing better now. The Vikings, I don't have much expectation for. And the Twins, of course, they didn't re-sign the guy who finished second in the Cy Young. I can't remember his name, you know, but you know, it's kind of I pay attention to sports. That's why I lean toward golf, so I can't have my heart broken and just my energy, you know, used. It feels like it's wasted after having my hopes up. But now everything that's happened with the Live Tour and John Rahm going there, I may go to tennis. I may start to... and I never did a review of the tennis documentary series on Netflix, which I liked. I watched about half of it, so... But anyway, that's kind of my spin on... What's your spin on the Timberwolves or the NBA as a whole right now? It's been an entertaining year, but do you think it's a little premature to start thinking they're an NBA contender? Do you think, you know, the pressure that might be on Anthony Edwards to be the next Jordan? We had so many guys like that, Kobe... Grant Hill at one point, actually, Anthony Hardaway, Penny Hardaway, Tracy McGrady, all those guys. The guy that he reminds me most of Anthony Edwards is actually the guy that used to be with, he's still in the league, was with the Lakers. I'm spacing on his name. He's like a big guard or a small, you call it, Lawrence Westbrook. Is it Lawrence Westbrook? Westbrook. He's the one. He's the one who Anthony Edwards reminds me of the most. Russell Westbrook. Lawrence Westbrook used to play with the Gophers, I think. Russell Westbrook. That's who Edwards reminds me physically. He has a similar kind of makeup. Lawrence Westbrook had one season. Russell Westbrook. Had one season, it was like 5 years ago, kind of went under the radar in the whole grand scheme of sports history, but he averaged a triple-double. The only guy that ever did that before them was Oscar Robertson. But I'm reminded more of Russell Westbrook than anyone else, though I think that, first of all, Anthony Edwards is younger, and he's just getting better, and he has kind of that killer instinct mentality. He seems to, like he will be the #1 option, whereas Russell Westbrook, in his peak in some ways, was when he was with Oklahoma City with Kevin Durant. He was always the second option. So, or Harden, you know. So that's kind of why, but, you know, when you saw Russell Westbrook try to be the primary, you know, star, per se, his teams were not as good. We'll see if that's where Edwards may sort of stand out from Russell Westbrook. He'll be considered greater than Russell Westbrook in the long term if he has, especially his defense. You talk about Jordan's offense, his athleticism, his shooting, his jump shot, his mid-range jump shot, and his sort of killer instinct. But his defense, that's really when Jordan got better, and I was totally not a Jordan fan, was when he really stepped up his defense and got his team to play defense. If Anthony Edwards becomes an elite defender, like a top 5, or even become Defensive Player of the Year, that's where, to me, the comparisons with Jordan start to become a little closer. You know, Kobe, that was kind of what happened with him. When he got better defensively, he got better offensively, but he got better defensively, and then they brought in Phil Jackson, of course, and triangle offense, and they were just like the Bulls 2.0, except with Shaq instead of Jordan. Yeah, that's where it really made a difference for Jordan, for Kobe, to an extent. Though Kobe didn't have I don't think Kobe was ever quite the elite defender that Jordan was. He was great. He got a lot better. And if Anthony Edwards, if Ant, as people are calling him, he needs a different nickname, I think. Ultimately, I don't know if everyone's going to always call him Ant, but if Ant Anthony Edwards ends up becoming an elite defender, like just a lockdown, like Gary Payton, like a glove, where basically he can defend almost any position. Basically, you're not going to be able to score. And still maintain his, you know, that a reasonable scoring average of 25 to 30 a game. Then the conversation of Jordan, and if the Timberwolves end up winning, and win for a sustained amount of time, not just one season. We had one season with Garnett, really. One great season. Then the conversation's there, but that still all remains to be seen, and if I had to guess, will that happen or not, I would say no. I would say I'd love it to happen, being a selfish Timberwolves fan, but I would say no. But, you know, if it happens, if we can even get like 5 great seasons out of him where they're in the mix, maybe they go to the finals, maybe they win even one or two, I will be a happy Minnesota and Timberwolves fan, Minnesota sports fan. But if he really ascends to sort of like if he is considered the best player in the league, like Steph or LeBron, then all these years of suffering and like just, you know, mediocrity and just, you know, kind of might sort of pay off a little bit with what happened with the Red Sox fans come 2004 to 2000 whatever it was 19, where they won 4 World Series after having like an 80-year drought. We haven't suffered that long, but we've suffered 30-some odd years from a title, and we've had the franchise since '89. So, you know, it kind of would be kind of a little bit of sort of poetic justice to have us have an elite, like maybe the best player in the league, and have us be a contender for a long time after sort of being looked at as sort of like a doormat, or, you know, oh, they've had some good teams with Garnett, but they didn't even go anywhere in the playoffs. It's like, you know, it would be kind of a nice sort of payback of sorts. But anyway, thank you for watching. Again, what's your take on the Timberwolves and what's your take on the NBA right now? I'd love to see it. You know, the Nuggets, everything else, you know, Embiid, the Timberwolves can't beat the Suns. You know, who else? Every team in the NBA playing right now. I'd love to find out about that. But again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Leave a comment, like, and hit the notification bell, and that helps with the algorithm. And we'll see you next time.